we heard a bit about Nuxt already from Daniel Rowe, who was talking about the next steps for Nuxt 4, how does it, what features it will come with, and so on and so on. We had a talk from Philip about the layers, and now I will be talking about the web performance problems in Nuxt and how auto optimizations can help us. But let's start with the fundamental question. So how web performance affects user experience? It's probably a simple one, but maybe it will be better to visually answer it with a survey or with the research done by Google, which says that if we have a page load time of around 1 to 3 seconds, the bounce rate increases to around 32%. This is the change from 1 second to 3 seconds for the user that needs to wait. From 1 to 5, the probability increases to 90%. So we see that if our page load is around 5 seconds, it's almost certain that the user will leave. Same with 6 seconds, where the bounce rate increases to 106%, and 10 seconds where it increases to 123%. Which basically means that if the page load time is around 5 seconds or more, there is a really high probability that the user will just leave the website. So we understand that better performance means better user experience for the users, but it doesn't just mean better user experience, because we can have websites that have bad user experience, but we still use them, right? But nowadays, if it has bad performance, it will mean that we will just leave the website and choose, let's say, different one that can deliver us the same functionality. So my name is Jakub. I was already here speaking previously, but apart from the previous introduction, I'm working here at Monterail as full stack developer and advocate. Nowadays, I mainly work with Nuxt, where I'm also part of something called Nuxt ecosystem team. This is something that was introduced during Vue Amsterdam conference. And what this means is that you have a core team member, such as, for example, the Vue and Nuxt frameworks. And for the ecosystem team, it means that we, as a part of ecosystem team, we are helping expand the ecosystem by supporting and building new modules, new plugins, new integrations, advocating a solution which we enjoy working with. And I'm also a Google developer expert in web performance. This is one of the reasons for today's topic about web performance. So to understand what we can do to improve web performance, we first need to understand how we can audit it, how we can see whether we have issues on our website or not. So probably you'll be thinking about DevTools, the one that are coming with, for example, the Chrome browser. We have Lighthouse there, where we can audit our website and see the results pretty fast. We can see qualities such as performance, accessibility, best practices, SEO, and in the past there was also PWA. Now I think they focus on the first 4 qualities. So we can do this, and we can also use the performance tab. I don't know, raise your hand if you know about performance tab in DevTools. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So this exact question was asked during the last Google I/O Connect meetup or summit, where all Google developer experts go there to meet, and it was less than what you have shown here with the hand. So that's pretty good. So in general, this is what you can see here is a recent development to add metrics for Core Web Vitals, where we have metrics such as largest contentful paint, cumulative layout shift, and interaction to next paint, where we can also set some environment settings such as the CPU slowdown or network delay or network latency, in order to simulate, for example, how other tools are auditing the performance. So this probably you've seen already, but I'm not sure if you've seen this as well. This is something that is right now, I think, available in Canary version of Chrome, where it will not only give you the metrics, but it will also give you hints on what you can do to improve the performance. So you will see, for example, the information about the element that was triggered as the LCP, like largest contentful paint, and some common issues that you might encounter, such as, for example, lazy loading the LCP element. And finally, you can also use tools such as PageSpeed Insights, which is extremely useful because it doesn't only come with the so-called lab data, which is the data coming from Lighthouse, which is not from real users, but from emulated environment, but it also gives you insights about core web vitals, which is coming from actual real users who are accessing your website. How does it work? Google measures how we as users access the websites and have it in a very, very big database, and they store it for few weeks or few months, I think, where they give you information about those specific metrics and how real users are experiencing your website. And in here, what is extremely important, maybe the font is a bit small, but in general, it's the audit done for the Lego.com website. So we can see that the desktop version has a performance of 60, which is not great, but yeah, let's say it's enough. But if we compare it to mobile, we see that the mobile is significantly slower, significantly worse. So what I want to share here with you is to not only focus on the desktop side, because users are using mobile as well, so you have to audit both, and only then you understand how all users are accessing your website and what their performance is. So Nuxt as a framework was designed with performance in mind, but with all tools that are, let's say, built perfectly, there might be situations where you will just fall, right? And it's natural, right? So Nuxt as a framework is a framework, so it's not a fully prepared solution for all cases you might have. It is just like a frame that you use to build your own projects. So in order to be able to maintain good performance score and good quality of your project, you need to be aware of the web performance problems that you can encounter. Starting with, possibly you've heard them already, about the images. So images is something that I always look first for the website in order to see if they can be optimized. As you can see here on the example, an optimized image with a weight of around 750 kilobytes, optimized half as much. For us, real users, there is no difference. The image is the same. While it matters for the loading speed and the experience of actually using the website. Second thing is about fonts. So we all like to see some fancy fonts, and we really like to add them to our website. But the problem is that they can result in render blocking, like blocking the render of the page, and can also result in layout shift. So how the website is, I'm always calling it jumping, right? So you can see that there are some jumping while the page is loaded, and it affects negatively the experience of us using the website. And finally, scripts, third-party scripts, Google Analytics, YouTube Embed, plausible analytics, anything else you can think of. Those scripts, they are render blocking, which means that if they are in the head of our application, what it means is that the application needs to load them first, like the whole JavaScript that is, for example, in this embed or Google Analytics, and then, and only then, it can start rendering your website, your actual content, like the images, the text you put in there. So extremely important stuff. And there are many, many more web performance problems. These are just 3 of them that I have selected for today's talk, specifically regarding the auto optimizations. So there is a lot that is put on our head, even though I just named 3 things, so images, fonts, and scripts. And it's all about critical rendering path. So how it looks in terms of this rendering path is that we have the HTML, then we have, for example, CSS, we have fonts. If they are not structured in a proper way, they will be blocking the render of the content of our page. So the idea is to make it optimized. On the example above, like the first example on the top, you see that unoptimized approach is that we show to the user the content at around 2.5 seconds. But there are ways how we can optimize it so that, for example, not everything is available at around 0.5 seconds, but we can show at least something, which already gives the user the impression that the page load was much faster than we expected. So what about those auto-optimizations in Nuxt? So let's start with the images. I mentioned 3 problems. I mentioned images as the first. So let's talk about Nuxt Image. Who is using Nuxt Image in their project? Only one person? Oh, Shimon, okay. So what is Nuxt Image? Nuxt Image is the module that provides you both Nuxt Image and Nuxt Picture, 2 components that you can use in your applications that are optimized, that help you deliver optimized images to your users. So what it means is that, for example, if you use Nuxt Image instead of the image tag, it will automatically detect the most performant image format for the browser that the customer is using or user is using. So, for example, it will detect WebP or select WebP or AVIF, which are much more performant than JPEG, for example, or PNG. And with Nuxt Image module, what we can do is we can define, let's say, 2 types of images that we have in our application. First of all, we have the images that are important. They are, for example, the hero banner or the logo or something that user instantly sees when the page is loading. This is, we call it that something is in the viewport, right? So with Nuxt Image, what we can use is we can use fetch priority, which also comes as a native feature of the image tag. But we can also set preload, which means, maybe let's back to fetch priority. Fetch priority, which will mean that we want this particular asset to be fetched as soon as possible. This is important, we want to be fast. The preload also comes useful with fetch priority, means that we want this image to be included in the head tag of our HTML as a link. So we will say that there is a link as image, and then there will be this asset, which will also instruct the browser that this asset is extremely important and we want it to be delivered as fast as possible. And there is also support for sizes, which means the dynamic image size for the different viewport size. So for example, different images for mobile devices, for desktop devices. And we also have images that are not important, the images that are below default. And for those, we can set, for example, loading of lazy, as well as fetch priority low. And with lazy loading, what it means is that the images that are below default, they are not fetched at initial load, they are fetched when they are needed, which results in less requests needed for displaying the website and generally improving the performance as well as user experience. And what else is that if you are using Chrome DevTools or PageSpeed Insights, you will also, if you're using Nuxt as a framework for application, you will also get the hints in there saying that if you have this problem in Nuxt application, you can use Nuxt Image and set format to WebP to make the image use the next gen format that it's more performant. Next we have fonts, and for that we also have a Nuxt module, interestingly, called Nuxt Fonts, which is basically a font optimization for all the fonts you can think of. So Google fonts and any other custom font you can think of. And how it works, very simple, basic. We just need to use the font as we used it before, but the difference is that we don't need to fetch it anyway. It will be fetched automatically by Nuxt Fonts. So we just need to, I will show you here, later demo. So we just set the value of the new custom font that we want to use, and it will fetch it, and it will be automatically applied to our application. So how does it work? So it resolves the font, it generates the font place rules, proxies and caches fonts, creates fallback metrics, to avoid this layout shift, and includes fonts in build, which means that we don't need to take care of those fonts. They are just there optimized for us. And finally, we have scripts. I mentioned before, for example, Google Analytics. And for that, we also have a Nuxt module called Nuxt Scripts, which basically delivers something called facade on top of a script. So if you are using decomposable such as this one, use script Google Analytics, it will wrap it in a facade, and it will allow us, for example, you see here there is a trigger and manual, where we can manually say or decide when the script should be loaded. It can be either after a certain certain condition, it can be after certain, let's say, timeout, let's say that we want to fetch or trigger the script after, I don't know, 5 seconds. We have full control over how the script is loaded. And the results are here. If we're using Nuxt scripts, for example, for Google Maps, and we compare Nuxt scripts and iframe, you can see the huge difference between the time that is needed to actually fetch the script and make it usable. And for that, if you are interested in Nuxt scripts, I recently implemented in a project and it was working really, really well, and it allowed us to optimize performance a lot. There is a really great video by Alex Tichler about Nuxt scripts. He has a great YouTube channel where he also shares a lot of useful Vue and Nuxt tips. So Nuxt helps us solve common web performance problems. And if we think about it in a way that it is all delivered to us and we don't need to do anything, we just need to use the modules instead of taking care of that ourselves. We don't need to go into Chrome documentation or Mozilla documentation and learn ourselves how those scripts are handled, how those fonts are handled, and so on and so on. So that's really nice. But I also wanted to share with you some sneak peek of what we are currently working on at Nuxt, starting with Nuxt best practices documentation. So documentation of Nuxt, I think, is one of the best places or best written documentation out there, I think. That's my honest opinion. But it certainly lacks some best practices. And best practices, I mean, for software quality, such as performance, such as security, such as accessibility or SEO. And for that, there is a, this is actually merged PR, but there is a bigger PR that is coming, where I also contributed to with the topics about performance, and there is also one right now being reviewed about security. And we also plan to put there things such as hydration issues, plugins, best practices, and so on, to give you the knowledge that you would need to make your next web application faster, more secure, and in general have better quality. But wait, there is more. That's not enough. That's not all. And what is more, we are working also on something called Nuxt Hints, which is, interestingly, another Nuxt module. So what is Nuxt Hints? Nuxt Hints is an addition to Nuxt DevTools. Nuxt DevTools is a really nice project created by Anthony Fu, who has a lot of free time. So Anthony created DevTools, and then after this huge success, I would say, in terms of a module for a framework, it was also created for Vue. Anthony also contributed there. So Vue decided that Nuxt DevTools are great, so let's have the same in Vue. And right now, Anthony is also working on having the same or implementing the same DevTools inside Vite. So if you're using Vite and you use Svelte, you use Astro, you use Nuxt, you use Vue or whatever, you will have exactly the same DevTools experience. But this is about Anthony, but we are talking here about Nuxt Hints. So Nuxt Hints, what it will do is it will give you the hints about areas of your application that we believe that could be improved. So it strictly correlates to the documentation and best practices, because we first create best practices for everyone to use and implement in the Nuxt projects, and then we give you a module that will highlight to you what are the problems and how you can solve them. Obviously, this is like work in progress. This is not the final module, but you get the idea, right? You will have a tab in DevTools that will signalize or show you what problems you might have and how you can solve them. And I also wanted to share the project that I was working on for some time already, which is Nuxt Commerce, which is basically an open source template for high-performance server-rendered e-commerce apps built with Nuxt and Shopify. And in there, I use Nuxt UI. I'm using their Nuxt UI version 3. I'm also using image and script optimization. I don't use font optimization there yet. I have an open issue to add it, but there is a like another issue in Nuxt Font that needs to be first resolved until I can add it to the template. So it comes with hybrid rendering as well, SEO and more. So as I mentioned, it comes with performance in mind. So both for mobile and desktop devices, you get a score of around 100. I try to make it as performant as possible. So if you'd like to check it out and try it for yourself, as I mentioned, it's like open source template. So you can scan this QR code. It will get you to GitHub repository where you can take a look at the project. You can fork it. There is also a link to deployed version on Vercel where you can try it out and see it for yourself. So few final notes from my side. So assets such as images, fonts, and scripts can negatively impact the performance of our website. Not optimizing them can cause bad user experience, but also make users just leave our website. So it's no longer about users that are not happy. It's the users that will just leave. So we won't be having situations where users will be coming to us saying, hey, maybe you could fix it, make it more performant. No, users will leave. So use Nuxt and all its goodies. That's my final note. If you'd like to stay in touch, you can do so here. I have a blog on Dev2. I have also accounts on Twitter or X and Blue Sky and YouTube. Everywhere there's like Jakub Andrzejewski. It's like English version of my first and last name. And that will be it from my side. So thank you very much for being with us here.